Hello everyone, Vanessa Aitken here, and welcome to lesson number 2, which is all about values. Today we will be determining your values, what's important to you and what you want to experience more of and grow in your life. Values are the words which embody what's important to us. They're complex and intangible, higher level functions of thinking and are intimately linked to our beliefs about what's good and bad, right and wrong. Our values guide our every decision, and the satisfaction or violation of values can produce strong emotional reactions. The problem at the moment is that although you know what you want to feel, courtesy of yesterday's lesson on goals, there's still a little gap in making that happen on a regular basis. Sometimes you feel good, sometimes you don't. The second cause of frustration is that because sometimes you feel good and sometimes you feel bad, there's a level of worry and anxiety about what emotions might just show up like an unwanted gift, and you feel a little bit like a hostage to whatever emotion might just land in your lap on that day. The third most frustrating aspect is that you know some of the things that make you feel good, but you know that there's got to be more out there that can help you feel happy, calm, relaxed, have that peace of mind. And your fear is that unlike this happy little cat, you're never going to feel good on a consistent basis. So what do you want? You want to know what it is that makes you feel good. Secondly, you want to know how to create these feelings so that you do feel good on a consistent basis, and so that you can get to this woman's age and still be feeling it. And thirdly, you want to have a clear view of your values so that you feel whole, confident, relaxed, calm, and strong. If you understand this lesson and keep it in your awareness, you will get very clear on what makes you feel good. And you'll start living more and more by your values, and feeling happy and calm will be more and more present in your life. But before we jump into the video and this lesson any further, I want to know, why is this a must for you? Why do you need to be clear on what your values are? Why you need to know what makes you feel good? So I'll give you a little bit of time to write it down. So why is it a must for you to be clear on what your values are? And why it's important to know what makes you feel good? So if you need a little bit more time, just pause the video and come back when you are ready. Okay, welcome back. As I mentioned before, values are words which embody what's important to us. Our values guide our every decision, and the achievement of these values or the violation of these values can produce strong emotional responses. And your values, whatever they may be, are the compass that guides you. When you know what's most important to you, life becomes easier, and you're able to have long-term happiness when you live by your highest values. But how do you do this if you don't clearly know what your values are? And this is the thing. Many people know the material things that they want to have, but they don't actually know who they want to be or what they want to feel on a consistent basis. And this is critical to know. It's critical to know what you value in life. Now, there's actually a few different types of values. There are moving away values and there's moving towards values. There's also end values and means values. So if I was to ask you what you value most, you might answer, well, I value family, love, and money. Of these three things that you've nominated, family, love, and money, love is the end value that you're wanting to feel. It's the emotional state that you desire. And family and money are the means values. So family and money are what trigger your feelings of love. So family and money are the means to the end emotional state that you feel, which is love. If I then asked you, okay, so what does family give you? You might say, well, family gives me love, security, and happiness. So love, security, and happiness are the end values, and family is merely a means to achieving those emotional states. Yeah, so love, security, and happiness are the end feelings that you want to achieve, and family is a way of getting those emotional states. So if I asked you, okay, so what does money give you? You might say, well, money gives me freedom, security, and choice. So it's not actually money that you value. What you actually value is freedom, security, and choice, but money contributes to those feelings. And there's different ways of meeting or getting your end values. So if you remember, when I asked what does family give you, you said it gives me love, security, and happiness. And then when I asked you, okay, well, what does money give you? You said it gives me freedom, security, and choice. So you can see that security is met through money and it's also met through family. So there's different vehicles or different ways of getting your end values. So there's different, it's like a means to an end. So there's different ways of achieving the same emotional state that you value. So that's means and ends. So it's the, where's my cursor? So it's the means, so family, money, that takes you to your, let's call it end result, which is love, security, happiness. And then there's moving towards values and moving away from values. And moving towards values are, when they're satisfied, they are what bring us pleasure. And moving away from values are an attempt to keep us from feeling pain. So moving towards values are feelings that we are wanting to achieve that bring us pleasure, and moving away from values are an attempt to escape from pain. So one's motivating us towards pleasure, one's trying to keep us away from pain. So, an example. We've got here in the two columns, we've got moving away from and we've got moving towards. So in the first one, under moving away from, we've got not failing. And then the moving towards is success. So Donald Trump, as an example, has a very high moving away from value of not failing. He has stated many times that the desire to not fail or look like a fool is what drives his success. And then underneath that, we've got a moving away from of too much change. We've also got a moving towards certainty. So an example is, of moving away from, I don't really like too much change. That's why I've always lived in the same house. And then on the last row, or in the last row, we've got certainty. So moving away from certainty and moving towards freedom. So I don't like too much certainty. It makes me feel trapped. So I like to get away, I don't want that. Whereas I'm moving towards is I love freedom. So I love variety and choice, etc. Neither is better than one or the other. But it's interesting to know whether you are moving away motivated or you are moving towards motivated. And that there are also means and ends values. As I said, Donald Trump, he is highly moving away from motivated. He's trying to avoid the pain of not failing or looking like a fool. And one of my teachers, who's arguably Australia's most successful and well-known coach and a phenomenal businesswoman, is also highly moving away motivated. So she also, by her own admission, doesn't want to experience certain feelings or situations, and this is what drives her success. So neither's better than the other. One doesn't determine success or failure. It's just interesting to know, are you moving away from motivated or are you moving towards motivated? So it's important to know that when we are operating from our highest values, we experience happiness, a sense of congruence, and a sense of satisfaction. And we feel good about ourselves. We feel in touch. We feel balanced. We feel whole, and we have positive feelings. When we go against our values, or we experience conflicting values, which I'll explain in a moment. So when we go against our values or we experience conflicting values, it creates a dilemma and an incongruence, and it can create an internal conflict and negative feelings or emotional states. So if you're experiencing conflicting values, I'll give you an example of what that means. So you might have a moving towards value of love, but you might also have a moving away from value of rejection. So you're moving away from rejection, but you also want to move towards love. There's a conflict here, because in order to have one, you must experience the other. So in order to experience love, you've got to risk experiencing rejection. And the interesting thing is, we are so highly motivated from moving away from. So we will do more to avoid pain, the pain of rejection. We'll do more to avoid that pain than we will to experience pleasure, the pleasure of love. So if you've got that conflicting value of, I really want to experience love, but I don't want to experience rejection, guess what? You're probably not going to move as much towards the feeling of love than you are to avoid the feeling of rejection. So that means you might not put yourself in situations where you are open to love. So if you really like someone and you'd really like to be with them, but you're scared of rejection, you're not going to take the risk of going up and asking them out, because you'll do more to avoid the pain of rejection than you will to experience the feeling of love. So it's important to know when you might have conflicting values, and remind yourself that, hey, our natural tendency is to avoid pain. But in order to feel what I want to feel, I've got to take that risk. So I've got to be willing to at least move towards it a little bit, or risk potentially moving towards it. Okay, so I said that, when we go against our values, we experience internal conflict. We experience the negative feelings or emotional states. Now, I'm not saying that your feelings of anxiety to date have only been a result of going against your values. No, I'm certainly not saying that. But it is important to know that it can cause tension and anxiety. I know that personally in the past, and sometimes still, if I go against my highest value, which is love, I can feel a bit on edge and I can feel quite uncomfortable at times. So for an example, if I don't give the kids the attention that they need in that moment because I'm rushed or I'm concentrating on doing something else or I'm in the middle of whatever it might be that has to be done now, and I don't give them the attention that they need, this can really go against my end value of love. And it can create some internal tension within me of, oh, wasn't there in that moment, I didn't give them what they needed. So it's important to know that when you do go against it, it can create some tension. So while our values, and the interesting thing is that often our values, they're out of our awareness and they're often unconscious, but they still continue to drive our decisions and they continue to drive our language and they also drive our behavior. So this dog obviously values moving his mouth, ripping things up, being energetic, being, vitality might be something that he values. But it's really interesting to know that we are driven by our values and that we express them through our language and through our behavior and what we do or don't do. I'll give you a story that illustrates this nicely. One of my mentors, he used to have a cleaner who was fascinated by my mentor's extensive library on personal development books. And he was always looking at the books, flicking through them and feeling really motivated and inspired by what it contained. And he was also really inspired and by my mentor, who is a coach and trainer. And, the cleaner saw that my mentor lives well. He lives in a very nice house in a nice suburb. And the cleaner said to my mentor, so how did you become a coach? And my mentor was explaining, well, he studied and he went to a coaching institute and he got qualified. And the cleaner said, oh, right, oh, what, wow. And my mentor said, well, you could become a coach if you wanted to. And the cleaner said, oh, wow, that'd be amazing. I would love to do that. I'd love to have what you experience and how you live. And, well, how much does this cost? And my mentor told him how much the fees were. And the cleaner said, oh no, that's way too expensive. I could never afford that. And my mentor said, yeah, cool, no worries. And the cleaner went off to do his work. And my mentor noticed that Sam the cleaner was wearing a really expensive looking pair of jeans. And my mentor said, hey, Sam, nice pair of jeans. And Sam turned around and said, hey, yeah, thanks. Oh, these were an absolute bargain. These were reduced from $1,500 down to $700. And my mentor thought, right, okay. So you can fork out money for a pair of $700 jeans, but you can't invest in your future. So in that moment, it really highlighted what Sam the cleaner values. He obviously values good quality denim, but he values appearance. But he doesn't value investing in his education. So you can see through other people by their language, what they talk about, the behavior that they do, how they present themselves. You can see what people value. And it's interesting to notice, and you will start to become really aware of other people's values, and you'll start to become really aware of your own values by the language that you use, by how you behave, by what you are interested in doing, what you're motivated to do, what you're not wanting to do. So it's great to observe and get an insight into your own values, which you will get even more of an insight into in the activity below, but also into other people's values. So that's it for this lesson. Remember that there are different types of values. There are moving away from values and there's moving towards values. There are end values and there are means values. And that when we go against our values or we have conflicting values, it can produce significant emotional responses within us. But before we jump into the home play activity video below, I want to know what's been your biggest takeaway or learning from this video. What's been the most valuable to you? Write it down. It's really important to stop and acknowledge, as the more you acknowledge it, the deeper it imprints on your brain. So write down what's been the most valuable for you and post it into the Facebook group. And I look forward to seeing you in the activity lesson below.